Welcome to our webinar on the Mindset Reset, Small Shifts, Big Alignment, Professionally and Personally. And I am a big believer in mindset. You can't quite see the poster behind me, but I feel like some days I need to bring this on into my own mindset too. Mindset is everything. And my name is Nilofer Erdbil. I'm CEO of Spring 2 Innovation. And I'm here to talk to you about mindset. If you don't follow me on LinkedIn, there's a QR code to my LinkedIn. I talk a lot about not just design thinking, but also a lot around mindset as well. So before we get started, I want to understand you guys a little bit better so that I can make sure that I'm talking about the right things that apply to you. And so we're going to do a quick poll. Are you looking to improve your mindset primarily around things professionally, personally, or both? And Jen, if you don't mind, could you put up the poll? Thank you so much. So are you looking to improve your mindset primarily professionally, personally, or both? Give you guys about 10 seconds for that. And we're getting some comments for both as well too in our comment section. And so I'm going to end the poll here. And it looks like most people are interested in both. And so a few professionally, a few personally, but most people are interested in improving mindset for both, which is fantastic. So I'm just going to share the results and then stop sharing. So I mentioned my name's Nilofer and I run Spring 2 Innovation. I do a lot of speaking engagements, a lot of training. I have a book called Future Proofing by Design, Creating Better Services and Teams in the Public Sector Through Design Thinking. I have 2 teenage boys, and in my spare time I do adult competitive figure skating. And I'm going to chat a little bit about that experience, especially from being a single mom who's had her kids most of the time, to sports and performance, and relay it back all into work as well too. And what's really interesting too is around mindset is we can't quite separate our personal selves from our work selves. And so when we're talking about personal or work, they tend to mend into one another, and so it's really hard to differentiate them. So today we're going to chat a little bit about how, if you're feeling like you need to push harder, or if you're seeing fewer results, or if your team's goals are slightly off, if you're feeling stuck or off track, or the alignment's not there, what you might be able to do. And we're actually going to go through some of the mindset shifts that you can do, and one of the deeper clarity principles, which is around dynamic mindset, to figure out how you can reframe your mindset for complex challenges in your work environment and challenges in your personal environment as well too. So a second question for you guys, just to make sure that this is catered really well to the audience: which describes your top challenge best? And we're going to put up a poll again too, is do you feel like you're stuck? Do you feel like you're off track, out of alignment, overwhelmed? And if it's a select other, and if you could write in the chat what the other is, that would be really helpful as well too. We'll give you guys about 10-15 seconds to do that. And so which of these best describes your top challenge? Do you feel stuck? Do you feel off track? Do you feel out of alignment, overwhelmed, or other? And if it's an other, if you don't mind putting it in the chat, that would be really great. Give folks maybe 5 more seconds. All right, and I'm about to close the poll and share the results. So it looks like a lot of people, most people, are overwhelmed, out of alignment, or feeling stuck. A few are off track. And so that's really great to know. And on a personal level, some people are saying off track and stuck a bit as well too. Okay, That's really great to know. And honestly, the overwhelmed is something that I've been experiencing, and as I talk to friends and colleagues, is happening quite a bit too. So that totally resonates with what I'm hearing as well too. So I feel a lot of the time that we don't need to fix the problem. We need to fix our thinking and how we respond to it. By the way, I forgot to mention that if you do have questions, you can put them into the chat along the way and I'll try to address it. But we're also going to leave about 5 to 10 minutes at the end for Q&A. And so if you have specific questions that you want answered, I'll make sure that we're providing some time at the end for that as well too. So I'm going to touch on 6 different mindsets, and I'm going to touch on them because we don't have that much time together. But if you do want more information on it, especially our advanced design thinking training or our advanced deeper clarity training touches on what's called dynamic mindset, which incorporates actually 10 different mindsets. And so today we're going to talk about the authentic mindset, aspirational mindset, collaborative mindset, reflective mindset, resilient mindset, and the clear mindset. So there's a few things to consider before we even start thinking about mindset. There's mindsets that you can have in the short term, in the medium, and the long term. And what I mean by that is a lot of the time we have so much information that we have to go through that it seems really overwhelming in the short term. But if we're able to pull back and think about our mindset for the medium and long term, it'll be a little bit easier to get through. And we'll touch on that in a little bit. And then especially if we're thinking about both personal and professional, in a professional environment, there's your mindset as well as the mindset of the team. And there are things that we're going to talk about more in terms of what you can do for your personal mindset today, but there's also things you can do as a team around the team's mindset. And we can do training and coaching for teams as well too, but sometimes it's hard to separate personal from team in work environments. So before we even start, let's talk a little bit about the current state of the environment that we're in. We're being asked to do a lot more with less, and it's happening even more and more. And there's lots of change going on, and sometimes change means opportunities. And sometimes, even if it's a good change, it's really hard to deal with. And especially with some of our public sector clients, there might be people leaving the organization or your team. Maybe it's you, or maybe it's people you work with. There's a lot of emotions that are happening in our work environment, and it feels really overwhelming. And there's a lot of noise, things happening, whether it's around the world, within our personal lives, or socioeconomically with inflation. It's just, there's so much happening all at the same time. And so it's really important to recognize that it's not just us, it's everybody that's going through all this change. And it's easy to feel misaligned. And so for me, I find that misalignment shows up in delays or a lack of energy, both personally and professionally. Sometimes it's doing unnecessary work or things not being successful. Sometimes it feels like we're failing or falling, or in work environments, especially if the team mindset or environment isn't ideal or it's misaligned, people end up being sick. And so let me chat a little bit about personally the delays and the unnecessary work. When I feel overwhelmed, I find I put stuff off and I procrastinate quite a bit because there's a lot of misalignment and overwhelm happening. And sometimes I also create unnecessary work for myself too, whether it's on what I perceive as important or what I think other people are going to perceive as important. And it's really important to make sure that we as individuals, personally and professionally, spend some time doing some alignment. And so what do we mean by alignment? In work, it's alignment within the organization, with the organization, the mandate, the strategy, with our teams, and making sure that we're clarifying the problem we're looking to solve, and it's alignment with clients' needs. Personally, it's clarifying the problem we're looking to solve, because sometimes there's so much happening and we're trying to multitask and do so many things all at once that it's hard to figure out what's really important. And also the things that we're doing, making sure that they're aligning with our own personal values as well. And in terms of a work environment, misalignment happens so often in teams and in projects. There was a Salesforce study done that said that 86% of executives blame workplace failures on lack of collaboration and poor communication, and 97% of employees and executives surveyed believe the lack of alignment within teams directly impacts the outcome of a task or a project. And so that's huge. That's almost 100% of the time. And so that's why it's really important to align with the team, with the organization. And some of those alignments include values too, whether what you're doing and what you believe match one another. And so today we're just going to talk about some small changes that you can make, because big breakthroughs don't come from big changes easily. They come from small intentional resets along the way, and just a little bit every day makes a big difference in the long run. I talk a lot about alignment and change, but changing habits and mindset, there's some really great people out there that have resources that you can tap into as well. James Clear with Atomic Habits, or Carol Dweck with Mindsets as well. They're also really great, but it's a lot about making sure that you understand you don't have to make big changes. So before I talk about the mindsets that I want to talk about the perfectionism mindset. And the reason I want to chat a little bit about this is as I was getting ready for this webinar, I talked to a number of people and asked what one of their challenges was. And a number of people chimed in and said that they have a perfectionism mindset. And so this illustrates really well what some of those things could be, is wanting to make things perfect, feeling like you can't fail, feeling that you might not be enough, and so working really hard on something until it's really perfect. And I noticed myself trying to do this throughout my life. It's only in the last 5 or 10 years that I'm trying to get out of this mindset, and it takes a lot of intention to get out of it, but it can show up in small ways or in big ways. And so in terms of in small ways, like as my kids were growing up, I remember I was overwhelmed, tired with work, tired with taking care of the kids, and I wanted to provide the perfect 6-year-old birthday party for my kids. And so I remember going out and buying cake pans and decorating birthday cakes for my kids and thinking this is what a parent should be doing. I wanted everything to be perfect. I look back on that time and think, yes, it was very cool, but the amount of energy that it took out of me to be able to adhere to what I thought a perfect birthday party for kids would be like was enormous. And this happens in work environments as well too, is we want to make sure that we're doing a great job, we're delivering services to our customers, to citizens, and we want to make it perfect. The challenge is that our customers need us right away, and if we're not able to get them something, others might be able to provide those services for them instead, or the clients are waiting a lot longer. And in our attempt to create something that's perfect out there, we actually don't do enough prototyping and testing. And so what we perceive to be perfect might not be perfect for our customers. And so I really encourage people to pull back and think through whether or not they have a perfection mindset, where it shows up, and how they might be able to shift that. And there's a lot of people that talk a lot about perfection mindset and how to get out of it. At the end of the day, we're humans living a human experience. And so we have to give ourselves a little bit of compassion when things aren't going as well as we thought they might need to go, or having to deliver things in a state that we didn't think might be what we would like it to be. And one of the speakers that I love is actually a tennis player. If you guys know Roger Federer, he has a really great speech, and there's a YouTube link to it. And the speech is called "You Won't Win Every Point, Keep Moving Forward." And he had this really great quote around how he has won 80% of the matches that he's played in his career. But the number of points that he's won in those matches is 54%. And so when you think about the difference between winning and, in this case, not winning, is there's a small difference. And if you try to be perfect every time, it actually gets in the way of coming out with something that's going to be even more amazing. And I think leaders also need to get into the mindset that it's okay for people to go through things and produce stuff that's not perfect, but be able to come back and improve it afterwards. And so we need to support people in learning and building that mindset, that resilience of not being perfect. I'm actually going to give another personal example too, because I find it is a big struggle for a lot of people because we have so many things on our plates and we want to be able to do the best that we can. Sometimes the stress of trying to create something that's amazing really overwhelms us. For me, I mentioned earlier that I do adult competitive figure skating, and I love the sport. I love performing. And a few years ago, actually I think 2 years ago, I decided to try a new program format. It's called artistic figure skating. And so I got this great program, choreographed, practiced it, but I never felt like I was artistic, and I always struggled to try to get every hand movement, body movement perfect. Last year, I was in a competition in Calgary, and I actually injured myself a week before the competition. And so all the way leading up to the competition, I was doing tons of stretching, tons of strength training, and getting some physio in there and massage. And the night before my competition, I didn't sleep very well because I was nervous. And that morning I woke up with a lot of pain in my leg. And so in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, I'm here to perform. It's not going to be perfect. I just need to get through the program. And I arrived at the rink. It was one of the first, if not the first event of the day in the arena, in the competition for that day. And I hadn't looked at the starting order that I was going to start in. There was about 20 skaters, and I looked at the starting order and I was first. And starting first in figure skating is not where you want to be, because you get a 5-minute warm-up and then you have to go out and perform your program right away. And usually judges save points for skaters that come later on too. And so when I got to the rink, my leg is in pain, and I found out that I'm going to be skating first. I was like, I give up. Like, I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to skate it. And right beforehand, I was able to get some more physio on my leg. I went out there and I enjoyed myself. I felt like I wasn't going to place. This was not the competition for me. And I was able to get out of my perfectionism mindset and just enjoy it. I got off, and I didn't even really hear my marks. And so I went, got changed, and I was in the stands, and I kept watching people perform. And I realized that I was in first place through most of the programs. And then another skater came on and performed really well. She did amazing. And she got great marks. And so I thought, okay, well, that's fine. And at the end of all the skaters, I realized that I was actually tied for first place. And the only reason I was able to do that was because I was able to let go of my perfectionism mindset. And I think that's a really good lesson to learn from, both for myself, but also for other people, is because when we have particular mindsets, it puts so much stress on ourselves that it's hard to move beyond that and perform to our very best. And so as you're thinking about all the stress that you have, what are some ways that you can get out of trying to be perfect and enjoying what you're doing? One of the other points that I want to talk about too is our mindsets are also a lot about how we measure success. And so in our work environments, we're being measured in terms of how we perform by our organization, by our peers, by our team leaders. And it's really important in work environments to make sure that you're setting aside measures of success for yourself as well as for the project as well. And even better in a work environment if they match the organization. And personally, how you measure yourself and how your life is successful differs from person to person. In figure skating and competitions, they are very specific on how you are measured. And it depends on the type of program, the level that you're at. But for me, especially the first 2 years of getting back into adult figure skating, I measured myself differently than the judges measured me. In fact, for the first year, I didn't even know how the judges were measuring me, because for me, a lot about getting out there was about getting more of the jumps consistently and performing the program and having fun. And that's how I measured success. It's only in the last year or two that I've started to understand how the scoring is done by the judges and to try to best meet them. But if I'm given the choice between trying something really hard and maybe not being able to execute it and lose points, or keeping my program simple, I'm going to opt for the harder one, because that's what gives me my energy. That's what I'm striving for in my life personally. So when we are in our professional lives, there's a lot of noise and we lose track of what's really important. And it's really important to break down problems into manageable parts. Sometimes we're overwhelmed with the magnitude of what we're trying to solve. There's a lot of problems all at the same time. There's people moving around, and it's really important, in order to be able to get into the right mindset, to identify what the real problem is or are, rather than the symptoms or what we perceive the problems to be. And I think a lot of people have perceptions of what problems they are trying to solve, rather than truly understanding what it is that they need to solve. And we cover some of this in our training around deeper clarity and design thinking, is focusing on what the problem actually is and then breaking it down into smaller pieces. And I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek, and he has this lovely quote last week, and it said, "It's not just the lucky few who should be able to say, 'I love my job.' Fulfillment is a right and not a privilege." And I think being overwhelmed and feeling stuck gets in the way of people really enjoying what they do. You're not gonna always enjoy every part of your job, but if you're able to get it to a point where you feel like you can make an impact and make progress on it, I think most people will enjoy their job a lot more too. And so a lot of getting into the right mindset is first making sure that you're also professionally solving the right problem. And in our personal lives, again, breaking it down into manageable parts, so that first of all, personally, we understand what we're looking for from life, what's important to us through our lives. And at times when we get stuck, it's because of what society or our family deems is successful. And so it's really important to connect once again with what our personal vision is, and making sure that we expend the energy on the things that matter to us, rather than wasting time on things that don't matter to us. And continuously considering what we want to solve for ourselves, what we want to get better alignment with, and how we want to live our lives. And we don't take time too often to do this personally or professionally. The 2 times that I've had and have been able to do this professionally have actually been when I've been laid off from different work environments. The first time helped me realign and figure out what I actually really wanted from life. And for me, I had always wanted to go to school for an MBA, and it actually gave me the extra courage and incentive to do that and accomplish one of my goals. The second time, I was actually in an environment that I wasn't particularly happy with, and I had always wanted to start my own business, and it was the extra courage that allowed me to move forward and be able to do that. So Like I mentioned, you don't need to overhaul your organization or your life. You just need to interrupt autopilot that often gets in the way for long enough to be able to choose better responses. So one of the mindsets that I love is the reflective mindset. And so it's creating time and space in your day, in your week, and in your month to be in stillness, block out the noise, and create clarity and creativity for yourself. And this is something that I think I have not done as much in my life and should have. Personally, spending time daily to figure out what's really important. And so now I block off chunks of time every day to be able to do that. And then to also be able to do that with your team too, to better understand what's actually really important in your organization and within your team to accomplish. What's really interesting is I get to chat with all sorts of different folks. And a few months ago, I was chatting with a CEO and an investor who is a CEO of multiple companies and invests in multiple more companies. And I asked, how do you manage to stay on top of everything? And he said, there's about a 2 or 3 hour chunk of time every day. It's about reflection, spending time with thoughts, sometimes with some emails, but more about trying to figure out what's really important and how much time there is and what could be delegated in order to make sure that the things that you want to accomplish are actually happening. And it's more about understanding first rather than fixing it. Understand what the real problem is and making sure that you're doing the right things to move it forward even faster. And so you need to make sure that you're observing yourself and the people around you, and especially for yourself, reducing that emotional charge and that reactivity, and ensuring that the right things are being worked on. By the way, feel free to write in the chat, do people spend time daily to reflect on their days and what's really important? As you do that, I'll keep going through this. I'd be interested to hear what people do as they're spending reflective time as well too. In the summertime, I personally love being able to go for a walk at the end of the day to reflect on the day itself, but creating that space every day throughout the year to be able to do that. And what I find too is that I think of things that I might have forgotten or things that inspire me to take different actions as well too. Yeah, and so comments in here that people do this in the morning and not enough time, and it's much needed. Yeah, and for some of us, daily reflection is really hard, and I know people are in different phases of their life as well too. Like I know when I had 2 young kids, like by the time 9 o'clock rolls around, I felt like I've already ran a marathon because there's so much to get done. And so if the morning doesn't work out for reflective time, finding space in your day at other points to be able to be reflective. The second mindset that I want to chat about is the authentic mindset. And so I find a lot of people feel stuck is they're not where they want to be, or they're not being authentic to what they really want and who they really are. And so it's really important for people to make sure that their values are aligned with what they're doing, both personally and professionally. And sitting in that stillness does help to get into that authentic mindset and to really understand what it is that you really want to be doing, who you really are, and what you want to accomplish. Again, sometimes we need to stop ourselves from being in autopilot mode to think about this too, because the authentic mindset isn't something that was really valued in work environments up until recently. And so how do we get into that authentic mindset and make sure that we're aligned with ourselves personally and professionally? And this still applies to teams as well too, is making sure that teams are being authentic in terms of what they're doing and what they're delivering. And so the third mindset that I want to chat about is the aspirational mindset. This is something that shows up sometimes when people are feeling like they're off track. So aspirational mindset might be missing, or they're really in that aspirational mindset and they're not where they want to be. So for example, last year I went through some major house renovations because of water damage from a few years ago. And it was chaos. And I felt like I was off track. I didn't feel very aspirational because I was literally living in a construction zone. And that's okay. But I worked really hard to get myself out of that environment so that I can get into aspirational mindset. And so we want to make sure that we're getting into environments and are able to think more aspirationally. And so once the house was done, I felt a lot lighter, and I felt like it was a safer place for my family as well too. Sometimes we feel our careers are out of alignment, and what we want changes over time too. 20 years ago, things were quite different, and what I wanted to do was quite different in my career. And so 20 years ago, I was working for a large organization that was national, and I knew I had wanted to start my own business, but there was so many other things that were happening, and that aspirational mindset was always there. And it was only when a major change happened that I was able to get myself out of that autopilot and back into that aspirational mindset. Same thing with figure skating. I had always wanted to compete in an international adult figure skating competition. And I kept telling myself, oh, when the kids are older, oh, when work's not so busy. And I always had that aspirational mindset, but I didn't take the steps to go forward with it. And what happens is that I actually ended up going to a workshop on mindset. And they asked at the end of the session is, what's one thing that you've always wanted to do that you're going to do in the next year? I was actually super embarrassed to share what my aspirations were with the team, that I said something else. I think I said something like, I want to learn to fly an airplane, which I haven't. But a year later, I think not even a year later, I found out that there was an international skating competition happening here in Ottawa and in the next 3 months. And within 24 hours, I had a coach and started training. And so it's really important to keep that aspirational mindset personally and professionally so that you're getting to the things that you want to do in life. And so it's been 4 years since I've gotten back into skating, and I've been at 5 International Skating Union competitions. And so I feel really fulfilled because of that personally, and it translates over to professionally as well too. So remember, if you're feeling overwhelmed, spend some time planning, breaking down the problem, and make sure that you're being authentic and aligned and have that aspirational mindset. The resilient mindset is so important right now. We need to be able to adapt and be able to come back and learn from some of the failures and really focus on the goals that we want to have, even if we're not where we want to be, because by being resilient, you're going to be able to get there as well too. And this is individually, as a team, as an organization. We're going through some setbacks and changes that are truly unprecedented. And so how can you have that resilient mindset to be able to adapt, learn, and keep moving forward? The fourth mindset that I want to chat about is the collaborative mindset. And I'm sorry if I'm going through these super fast. We do have training courses where we can go into more detail on this, or we can do customized training sessions with your teams as well too. Collaborative mindset is so important because we can't do everything on our own. We need other people to help us out. We need other people to be able to work with and to support us along the way. And in order to have that collaborative mindset, it's really important to have better communication skills, align on values and goals. And also, as you're putting on this collaborative mindset, making sure that you're taking time to remove and reduce assumptions collectively so that you know that you're working on the right things at the right time. So we chatted a little bit about alignment, and we chatted a little bit about the resiliency mindset. Alignment really enhances teams because it encourages that adaptability and that resilience and allows people to prepare for navigating changes as well too. And then finally, the clear mindset. And so this is where we're focusing. And you actually really need that reflective mindset to have that clear mindset. So pausing before responding, planning your day daily with yourself to do that reflection, and at least weekly with your team to make sure you know what's important. And clear mindset is where you do the prioritization. What are you focusing in on personally? What are you focusing in on professionally? Determining whether it's really urgent. Is it really urgent for you? Is it really urgent for other people? Is it important for you? Is it important for other people? What should go first? What's going to make the project or my life better in a month? Because sometimes there's a lot of urgent things that feel really necessary right now, but is it going to make a difference in a month? And then making sure that we're understanding our assumptions and validating or invalidating them, and aligning with purpose as well too. And life happens. Wild cards are thrown at us, and it's really important to have a mindset where we're resilient and we're recalibrating and recalculating our route. It's like with GPS. When you take a wrong turn, it doesn't tell you you've gone the wrong way. It says recalculating and rerouting. And so even though there are things that come up in our life that were unexpected, or even if they were expected, it just throws a wrench in the whole system and the whole way that you work, you think, you live every day. It's pulling back and thinking through, okay, this is just something that needs a course correction that we can recover from and move forward from too. And so wild cards are going to happen, surprises are going to happen. It's how do you adapt and move forward from it as well too. And sometimes wild cards aren't all bad, but making sure that you realize that most things aren't permanent. And I know I've gotten stuck in this trap as well too, is thinking that things are going to be this way forever. It's just an opportunity to experiment, prototype, test, especially assumptions too. Sometimes we assume something is going to be bad, but in the long term, it's actually good for us professionally and personally. And then family situations and what's happening in our lives and the phases of our life that we're in call for different choices and different decisions. I'm able to do different things now that my kids are older than when they were younger. And I think people are in different parts of their career as well too, and what they're doing and how they want to do it shifts, and that's okay. Just realizing that it's not permanent and this is what needs to happen in this phase of your life or this phase of your career as well. So if you're looking to reframe and reset your mindset, make sure that you're looking to reframe and understand what's fact versus your interpretation. And so this goes back to what I thought a perfect birthday party for a 6-year-old would be. My kids do not remember their 6th birthday party, and nobody remembers the cakes that I made. And so what is fact versus interpretation now is not forever. So what do you need to deal with in the next 24 hours? And then what do you need to deal with in the next 24 hours that's going to make an impact in a month from now? Constantly being curious, shifting from certainty to curiosity. This is all about testing assumptions. What else could be true within our mindsets? So sometimes we perceive things to be important, but maybe they're not. What else could be true about it? 4th is ask better questions. Better questions lead to better thinking. What is this asking of me right now? Whether it's professionally or personally, thinking through what other questions you could be asking, and then reflect. What did I handle better today than I would have before? What did I learn? How do I respond under pressure? How you show up in your organization, in your work, really makes a difference, and it's really important to reflect back in terms of how you show up and then making sure that you respond over outcome. And so anchor to what you can actually control. So we have a few more slides, but we have one question in the Q&A. I'll give you guys a few more minutes as I wrap up to write stuff in the Q&A. So just to keep in mind, most organizations aren't failing. So sorry, that's my Siri in the background. Most organizations and leaders aren't failing because teams aren't smart or they have bad strategy or people aren't putting in the effort. They're failing because decisions are being made in autopilot and people are showing up with a different type of a mindset, with thinking about the same assumptions as before. They're not examining their habits, and there's a lot of default reactions under pressure. And so this is where that reflection really comes in handy, and really testing out the assumptions to make sure that you're clear on what is actually really important. And part of deeper clarity isn't about fixing the problems, it's about interrupting that thinking that created them individually and as a group as well too. And that's part of the reason why we created deeper clarity itself, is because a lot of the time we're stuck in these gut assumption traps, both personally and professionally, where there's not enough clarity or alignment. We're feeling overwhelmed with all this information, and we're not taking the time to understand our clients or our citizens. And sometimes our family is our clients, our kids, our significant others. Just taking the time to understand the people around us better. And we're only using past experiences and gut feelings to design our life, new products, new services, and new processes. And deeper clarity is a methodology and a mindset for alignment and for success, to make sure that you're focusing on the right things that make a difference, and the different types of mindsets that you need to have in your life and in your projects to make sure that you're getting to that success. And there's different types of mindsets that you can have, from growth mindset to human-centered mindset, but it's all about bringing those into work environments. And with our training, we try to enhance the mindset and the alignment within teams. There's something that I'm just starting to talk about as I'm getting ready to publish our second book, and it's our drops framework that I'll be talking about a lot more in the next year. But with each step of our framework, there's different types of mindsets that are really important to have. As you're starting a project, the mindsets that you need are different than as you are reframing or identifying what the problem is, as you're prototyping and testing, or as you're looking to build steady state alignment as you move forward. And so if you want to know more about that, drop a comment in the chat, but you'll be hearing more about that in the coming months as well too. And remember, with planning, mindset has a lot to do with it. Making sure you're creating time to plan, and that's the daily reflection time, making sure that you're aspirational and have a collaborative mindset. And I love this quote, is go slow to go fast. And I constantly have to remind myself of that. Make sure you're spending the time on the planning of the things you need to do, and also planning your mindset for the day as well too. I think in the Army, they say slow is smooth and smooth is fast. That's the same thing. And if you've heard me talking about skating, the times that I end up falling, whether it's on jumps or spins, is when I don't take the time to plan and get into right alignment before I do the jump or the spin. And so that planning component of it is so important, personally, professionally, in sports, and for performance as well. And making sure that you're trusting the process and getting into a flow state, because sometimes when you are trying too hard, it's actually making things worse for you. And it's like the example that I shared earlier with the skating, and not really trying really hard for my artistic program and just enjoying the process and following the process makes a big difference in terms of how and what we can deliver. And so there's a lot of great things that come out of deeper clarity, but I think alignment, the impact that you have and hitting targets, is a huge part of it. And deeper clarity can be used at the start of a project, or if you want to do innovative work, customer experience, employee experience, or digital transformation. Mindset is a huge part of what we talk about, though, because it makes a huge impact in organizations. So that being said, I'm going to switch over to the Q&A. If you guys have more questions, feel free to write in the Q&A as well too. And so there's a question in here. Are these mindsets meant to be used one at a time or all together? Should we spend time trying to identify what mindset we're in and which ones we want to be in? Okay, great questions. There's a whole bunch in there. You can have multiple mindsets at the same time. It's not one or the other. What are the different types of mindsets that you need to have, whether it's in your personal or professional environment? I mentioned earlier with our jobs framework, for different parts of a project or a business, you can have different mindsets all at the same time. Just making sure that you understand those are probably a little bit more important to have in that phase of a project. And for yourself personally too, is maybe selecting one or two to work on instead of doing all of them all at the same time is going to move you forward a lot faster than if it's just one or two. And then should we be spending time to try to identify what mindsets we're in and which ones we want to be in? Absolutely. Absolutely. Oftentimes we don't realize the mindsets that we're in. Sometimes people are in a real scarcity mindset, especially these days too. And understanding that allows you to understand the types of mindsets that you want to be in. If you're feeling overwhelmed and that's the mindset that you have, it gives you clues into the types of mindsets that you need to be working on. And there's a comment in the comments as well too. Do you recommend any meditation techniques to help one identify one's mindset? I think it's different for different people. Some people like to write it down. I personally love quiet time where I'm not doing anything and I'm not in front of a computer. I personally love to walk and be able to think through things and get clarity. A lot of people like to do meditation, and so I totally recommend meditation if that's something that's working for you, to not only figure out what your mindset is, but also be in that reflective mindset too, to make sure that everything's all aligned. And then what tools can we use to help us reduce making decisions on autopilot? That's a great question. And so I think the reflection component helps out for so many people to make sure that they're not on autopilot, but it's also asking those questions that you might not have thought of. And part of that is the understanding your assumptions and questioning those assumptions. I would assume that most people are in autopilot all the time. And so thinking through what would I normally do and what's different than what I would normally do. And sometimes what you normally do is fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but just understanding that you're in autopilot is step one. And then the decision to come out of autopilot is step two. And then three is understanding the mindset that you're in that has had you in that autopilot mode, looking around you to see what the assumptions are that you've been using. Have those things changed? How has the environment around you changed? And then how do you need to change, and what types of mindsets do you need to have in order to get out of that autopilot mode? The presentation slides are not going to be shared, but we are going to be sharing the webinar with folks in the next week or so that have registered for the course itself. And as we mentioned, we do have some courses coming up in the next few weeks. The Advanced Design Thinking Aligning for Impact has a lot around mindset. On our design thinking certification, we're starting to put in more around mindset as well too, especially in the last section of the training. The certification is 5 days, and so we get a lot more time working with you and your team. And again, the advanced design thinking mindset is such a huge component of success in organizations that's been overlooked for so long that we try to spend as much time in there as we can, because at the end of the day, we're all humans showing up to work right now. And so if we can understand our mindset, the mindsets around us, and then also the mindsets that we want to be in, I think that's going to create a lot more harmony within organizations, and also get to our personal and professional goals as well too. I mentioned we do some coaching, and so if it's something you want to do individually or if it's something that you want to do as a team, we're super happy to do that as well too. Some of these techniques might be more difficult for different personality types, but having somebody there with you to walk you through them and help incorporate it into your life and into your routines makes it a lot easier to integrate, regardless of the background that you might have or the types of personalities that you have as well too. And so I think mindset is different for everybody. Everyone's starting from a different point, different experiences, and they also have different mindsets they want to be in. And so it's a very personalized journey, and one that impacts us personally and professionally, short-term, medium, and long-term. And the more time you spend thinking about your mindset and the mindsets that you want to be in, I think it's going to help you get to your goals a lot faster and help you feel less stuck and less overwhelmed as well. If you do want to reach out to us, we are available online, post a lot on LinkedIn as me, Nilifer, or Spring 2 Innovation. We have a lot of posts. I have a book on future-proofing by design, creating better services and teams in the public sector through design thinking. And I also have a TED Talk on design thinking for complex environments. And we have a lot of coaching and consulting. I hope that was helpful for people on the call. If you do have additional questions, feel free to reach out. We're always available to have a conversation. And if you really enjoyed it, take some time to write in the comments or in the survey afterwards and let us know what you liked and what you'd like to see more of. And since there's no more questions, I'm going to close that off. Thank you everybody so much for coming, and looking forward to seeing you at our future webinars. By the way, our next webinar is going to be February 10th on Tuesday, and it's going to be around AI. Thank you so much.